Well, it's that time of the year again where we look into the future of gaming and see what's on the horizon in the new year. Hello friends, it's Codiak here, one half of the team behind Legacy Gaming, and today we'll be breaking down some of the biggest games coming in 2021 and beyond. Before we jump in, let me just set some ground rules since these types of videos always have a tendency to make someone mad somewhere. For our list, we compiled the best and biggest games that are coming out in 2021 or have potential 2021 release dates. We don't include game updates, remakes, or remasters, and there is no order to our list. The first entry isn't the worst, and the last isn't the best. It's just a random order, so let's all remain in our seats and, avoid throwing fire at us in the comments. By now, you probably know that we're big fans of Hytale over here at Legacy Gaming. We were hoping to have our first look at this game in 2020, but because of COVID and some company restructuring, that hasn't come to fruition. Hytale's announcement trailer is still one of the most successful in video game history, clocking in at over 57 million views. Often compared to Minecraft and other block-based games, Hytale looks to evolve the genre with more freedom for builders, content creators, and explorers alike. The game will feature an adventure mode for players that are looking for a more PvE-centric experience, PvP minigames, which is at the heart of Hypixel's business, and of course, the open-world building and exploring players have come to expect from games like this. While Hytale may still be ways off, we have no doubt that something will happen in 2021, and players will, unless something catastrophic happens, get their first real chance to step into the world of Orbis and explore the game. This next game is one I personally cannot wait to play in 2021, Deathloop. Created by the same team that brought us Dishonored, Arcane Studios is back and they are truly elevating the first-person shooter genre with this game. Deathloop is one part shooter, one part roguelike, one part adventure game. You play as Colt, trapped on an island called Black Reef, and you have 24 hours to take out 8 targets and break the cycle, or, Deathloop. When you die, you start back at the beginning, but hopefully, you've picked up some information that will help you get through your next run a bit easier. Your targets have motives, agendas, and as Colt, you'll have to learn all that you can so that you can eliminate all 8. One of the coolest aspects of the game is that there is also a hunter, Juliana Blake, who's tracking you down and trying to stop your run. Most times, she's controlled by an AI, but in a slight twist, Deathloop can also be classified as a multiplayer game. Players can take control of Juliana and jump into other games to try and slow down players controlling Colt. Now I can't say how successful this will be, but it's an ambitious idea that could really shake up the game and the genre. The gunplay in Deathloop looks fantastic, the concept intriguing, and on May 21st we'll have our first real chance to see if it all comes together. If you're a fan of Gears of War or Remnant from the Ashes, you're probably already familiar with this next game, Outriders. People Can Fly and Square Enix have teamed up to create a brand new third-person looter shooter in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi world. This game's been on the radar for quite some time, and we're now coming down to the home stretch before launch in February. Unlike other looter shooters that have missed the mark on story, Outriders looks to really nail that one aspect of the game. From snippets of gameplay we've been able to find across the internet, the post-anomaly story elements seem to really be interesting. The game touts a 25 to 30 hour main campaign and guarantees at least double or triple that when factoring in side quests. Outriders also features a class system. Players can play as one of 4, the Pyromancer, Trickster, Devastator, and Technomancer. Each class has a handful of abilities that can be used in any combination to augment the gunplay in the game. Outriders is a PvE game first and has dismissed all notion of PvP elements, but it is multiplayer. You can team up with 2 other friends, creating a party of 3 to explore the semi-open world, complete side quests, and ultimately blast your way through the main story. Outriders is coming to the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC on February 2nd. Back in mid-2020, the world was taken completely by surprise with the reveal of Black Myth Wukong. With over 7 million views on the first trailer, it's safe to say this game now has a fair amount of attention. In the same general area as Ghost of Tsushima, Dark Souls, and other third-person action games, Wukong is clearly based on the Chinese tale Journey to the West. We've seen Sung Wukong appear in all major MOBA titles like League of Legends, Dota, and Smite, but this is the first time the character is getting a dedicated game. Now, the developers are a small indie studio in China called Game Science. Formerly made up of Tencent developers, they released the trailer in hopes of attracting new talent to their team to help finish the game. There are still a lot of questions surrounding Black Myth Wukong, but from the gameplay preview we can see that a more traditional third-person action game is likely, with fast-paced combat, special abilities, and of course, over-the-top enemies. This is definitely a game to keep an eye out for, and while there is no specific release date, we're confident that something big will happen in 2021. Ubisoft had an insanely busy year in 2020 with popular releases like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, and Immortals Phoenix Rising rounding out the later half of the year. But as things go in the AAA world, you're only as good as your last game, and the team looks to continue on their legacy with Far Cry 6. Heavily influenced by the culture and tumultuous history of Cuba, Far Cry 6 looks to return to its roots with a more realistic game. Far Cry New Dawn took the series in a wild direction, and while Far Cry 6 looks to be a big jolt back to reality that the series needed. One selling point to Far Cry 6 is the main antagonist, Anton Castillo, played by Giancarlo Esposito, most famous for his character in Breaking Bad, Gus Fring. His performance as El Presidente, a ruthless dictator, will no doubt be the linchpin with which the story will rely on. We also can't forget about his son, Diego, who many speculate to be Vas Montenegro, a fan-favorite antagonist from Far Cry 3, leading many to believe that Far Cry 6 is actually a prequel to Far Cry 3. With just a few months before the game's release, I expect there to be a big buildup of content released by Ubisoft, shedding more light on the gameplay and the story. We know that the team is promising bigger cities and more verticality, something that we often see in their Assassin's Creed games. So how are they changing up Far Cry this time to attract a new audience? Only time will tell. Far Cry has been delayed just a bit and is now slated for May 25th, 2021. Players can expect the game to hit PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC. Say what you will about Halo Infinite, say that it's a mess, say that the studio is in over their heads, hell, say that this game is dead on arrival, but don't dismiss the fact that Halo is still, after all these years, one of the most beloved franchise in video game history. Halo Infinite has a lot of people riled up, and I understand why. For the first time, the game is taking a more open-world approach to storytelling. In our first look at the gameplay, we saw a sprawling world map with various markers around the world that indicate things to do. This is a complete pivot from what players are used to with a Halo game. A recent reveal, Halo Infinite will also feature a free-to-play multiplayer system, which hopes to bring back thousands of Halo fans that have skipped out on the most recent games. Of course, with free-to-play content comes the concern of loot boxes and microtransactions, which is something 343 Industries, the developers behind the game, are going to have to deal with. While the 8-minute gameplay demo ignited a firestorm of backlash and concerns, there's a lot of familiarity with the game. Master Chief is back, his iconic arsenal of weapons is available, and the world has evolved in scale and scope. This is one game we'll be watching closely. As an established series, it'll have all eyes on, and while that can often be a good thing, as we all know, the internet is a brutal court of appeals. Halo Infinite has no specific release date, but it is confirmed that the game is arriving sometime in fall 2021. It has been 3 years since players got to play Horizon Zero Dawn, one of the crowning gems of the PlayStation 4 lifecycle. 2021 guarantees a new adventure out west and a proper sequel to the original games. Players will continue Aloy's story as she moves further west to a far future America. In the reveal trailer, we see an overgrown San Francisco, but we know, thanks to an interview with the game's director, that the map will stretch from Utah to the West Coast, resulting in a slightly larger world than the original game. In terms of gameplay, while we don't know much, there is definitely an emphasis on underwater exploration. The trailer returns to the vibrant depths multiple times and shows off a number of creatures we'll no doubt have to confront. With the launch of the PS5, I have no doubt that one of PlayStation's most successful console exclusives will be close behind, which makes me believe a spring or summer release is in the works for Horizon Forbidden West. Friends, there are a number of other games that are on our radar, but unfortunately, there is only so much time to talk about what's on the horizon in 2021. I wanted to give some honorable mentions to other games that will no doubt have an impact in the new year. Hitman 3 looks to conclude the World of Assassination trilogy and provide players with the closure to one of the most beloved stealth combat games of the last decade. Resident Evil 8 is also a game we can't forget about. While details are still scarce, we know that the game will conclude the events of Resident Evil 7 and will return to first person to ensure those jump scares are as real as possible. Capcom took a slight break to remaster some of the older fan favorites, but looks to return to form with this brand new adventure. And finally, I want to mention Hogwarts Legacy, which is a brand new open-world RPG set in the Harry Potter universe. With just one trailer released and details few and far between, we don't know much about the game other than the fact that it's set in the 1800s, well before the events of the Harry Potter books. This is easily one of the games I'm most looking forward to learning more about in the new year, but with no real evidence to point to a 2020 release at this point, it's all hype. Thank you all so much for checking out our On the Horizon video for the biggest games of 2021. If you enjoy our content and want more videos like this in your feed, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. We've got a lot planned in the new year, and we hope you'll consider Legacy Gaming as your new stop for all your video game needs. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.